Your comfort lives on the other side of discomfort. Comfort feels good, but rarely leads to expansion. Learning to lean into resistance is where transformation begins. And in this episode, we're going to go and explore that constant tug of war between the comfort and what feels familiar, the calling to step into something greater, while we dive into how people get stuck in the routines feeling safe, but it slowly erodes your gain for your deeper calling. Scott, let's kick this thing off, my friend.
How you doing today? I'm here with my good friend, co-host Eddie Austin here on the Inner Compass, looking to find, searching for our true north. Today, we're going to talk about our calling and how it moves us away from comfort, because comfort brings complacency and stuff, and it doesn't allow you to grow. If you're comfortable, you're going to tend to procrastinate and kind of move away from those things. There's always things that you're going to be torn between. A lot of times in my life, I know where I was very comfortable, but I didn't feel satisfied. What about
Yeah,
yourself?
yeah. No, I feel the same way. I know that, sometimes we get into these feel safe routines, like this just feels safe, it feels comfortable. But slowly it just drains the purpose from me, honestly, because and it's really hard because how do you align with this deeper pull towards growth when there's risk but there's meaning? And the bigger meaning is pushing through to the other side. And I know it's a constant battle. Like it's a real battle between comfort and breaking free and getting out of that safe zone. Like I really feel like sometimes I've played in, some people might call it the end zone, you might call it the safe zone, but
Hmm.
I really have. I feel like there's some times that when growth is not happening, when I'm not like really, how do I say this? When I'm not really just going for it, where I feel good, I notice that I look up and I'm like, Eddie, you're really not stepping out that
Hmm.
much to make a big difference. And I think that that's what it's all about is it's you get in these comfortable habits
Yeah.
of just, hey, I'm gonna not go do these things. I'm not gonna get up early. I'm not gonna go to the gym because I can sleep in. That's comfortable. I can eat some breakfast before doing any exercise. I can slowly get in the office. And just it just drains. At the end of the day, it's draining. But I feel like we have a really hard time with as humans falling back into the bad habits.
Yeah, because our brain always has a tendency to move towards safety, and comfort, gives us that feeling of safety, but
Yes.
if we're not doing those things that keep us growing or whatever, what have you, I know probably the same thing that you feel is that a lot of times that's where we feel like we're on that hamster wheel, where
Hmm.
we're not really getting any going forward. We don't feel fulfilled. We don't feel like we're doing things that are in alignment with our purpose. Because when you do feel that, you get to a certain feeling of like being okay with a certain level of discomfort, and so you might only do these small steps instead of maybe, hey, how can I think bigger? How can I do this bigger? Even just, how can I go further than just a comfortable step forward? It's always a big battle. I know it is for me,
Hmm.
especially like the gym, the going to the gym kind of analogy, where some days you feel like, oh, I'm on fire, and you push yourself. And then other days you're just kind of just go through the motions and stuff. And those are the days that where you really gotta dig deep and push harder.
Yeah. So if we were to draw a line in the sand, like right down the middle, and say this side is comfort, this side is calling, where in your life have you felt torn between those two? Like, can you define a defining moment?
Yes, I've had a time where I was on a particular boat, and I was really, I didn't feel like I was growing, and I was there for a lot longer than I should have been, but it did open up other opportunities. But I was not really, we're going to the same places, doing the same things, same guests, same everything. So it was really not fulfilling. So I really had to step out of that. And that's where, because I've always had to have something. on the side just because the island business is very unstable. So
Hmm.
there's where I forced myself to step out and get into real estate and stuff like that. And it's really been quite a journey, and I keep growing and I keep challenging myself. And you know, like we say, I'm just getting started. It keeps getting better and better because I stepped out of that, and that job has gone away and it's moved to other opportunities. But had I stayed there, I'd probably been stuck.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. What was a time when, say, staying comfortable on that side of comfort, where it actually held you back?
Well, I would say definitely in that instance, because I was really feeling like I was spinning my wheels and I just kept going through the motions. And I know in looking back that it really held me back because I didn't take those steps initially to grow and kind of seek out other opportunities. I just kind of went through the motions, and it was very, very draining. It was very like discouraging. And, it kind of was one of those times in my life where I was kind of spiraling downward because it was kind of just started being like a sea of despair. And, when you get to the bottom of that, that is a very uncomfortable
Yeah.
place to be.
Yeah, that was kind of my next question was is what early experiences shaped your relationship between risk and change? Like what was that difference between understanding this relationship? Okay, well this is risky, but it also breeds some change.
Yeah, it was, to me, in that instance there, it was riskier for me to stay the same because I know that if I look back and 10 years from now I was in the same exact position and I was still being in that sea of despair, that would be very, very discouraging. And I couldn't live with that, that I didn't take the shot, because, we miss 100% of the shots we don't take, so
Yeah, yeah. I would also add to this: your calling doesn't whisper from your couch; it calls from the edge of the comfort zone. Like when you're on that edge, leaning towards, you know, jumping out into something new. That's when you hear that real calling. But it's not whispering loud enough to you on the couch. So when you're on the
well,
couch, you're just sitting there going, "I feel great," But when you do decide to move closer towards that comfort and stay on the edge, right there on this edge, that's when things start to really get loud for you. I know it did for me.
yeah, it does. And there was this makes me think of, a lot of times people don't step forward because of their criticism and stuff like that. But always keep in mind that all the people that criticize the loudest are usually the ones doing the very least.
Yeah.
Right. And it's funny how that works out because they're spending too much time worrying about what everyone else is doing. And as you get further along in your growth, those those loud people fall off into the distance. You don't
They
hear them
absolutely
anymore.
do. I mean, at the end of the day, I've had a lot of, things going in my life that I remember the times that I was comfortable and I think, man, if I could have stepped out sooner, what would life look like? That
Yeah,
really does kind of hurt
yeah,
when you're a little bit farther forward and you realize, man, I should have stepped out earlier.
yeah.
That for me is big because
It's huge.
there was definitely times that I explored how comfort slowly become a cage.
Yeah,
It become like this bars, because this jail that I created around myself.
yeah,
And it's how that kind of that it's a fear of stability or security.
yeah.
And those two things kind of get you trapped a little bit. And I think it's an illusion.
It is. It's an illusion. The cage is an illusion of security because you you use that around you to kind of give yourself that out, you know. And the other day when I was in Dallas and we're looking at our one of our development projects, there was a one of the guys on the teams that we partnered with. Kid is 23, and man, this kid, I was really impressive. Like he was talking about his fund structure and all this stuff, and I was like, man, what if that was me at 23?
Oh, yeah.
I was
Yeah.
thinking, I was like, yeah, but I wasn't ready at that point. I wasn't. I didn't even know that existed. I didn't even then figuring out that it existed for me. That was another step there too. But that cage of comfort or stability, we wall ourselves around to protect ourselves from trying things that would probably benefit us. But if we stay in that security, it's really just kind of a myth of security that we build up to kind of make ourselves feel better. But if we get rid of the cage, that whisper you were saying on the couch, it gets real loud.
It does. It does. I know, for me, success is not always predictable.
Hmm.
And I feel that when we do find in the grind, we figure out like between the gap and the gain, right? That's a great book.
Yes.
And, we figure out that there's this gap between these two things. And I think that there is predictability that can help you become more successful when you realize, okay, if I step out the everyday comfort zone, the reward is much higher. It's way
Yes.
more risky, but the reward is much higher. And that for me is where I started to reshape life, is when I started doing daily habits that gave me the ability to be outside that comfort zone consistently because the reward was somewhat better.
Yeah.
I would also say when your soul gets too big for the space you're living in, you'll start to feel the friction, and that's when the calling just starts knocking really loud,
Hmm.
because at the end of the day you're like, I know that I'm meant for more,
Yeah.
and
And
you got to step out.
yeah, you definitely do. And when your calling is knocking that loud, that knocking gets real loud. For me, I know that for me to stay the same way, like I was just mentioning, the same person in 10 years, that would probably, I couldn't live with that, and that would destroy me.
Yes.
I would destroy myself in the process, probably with a lot of self sabotage and self destruction, because that would be just an awful feeling that I could have always done better, or could have always done more. When your soul does get too big for it, it finds a place. It finds what it needs. It might be things that you weren't really thinking of, but a lot of times I know it's probably your experience as well. Once you grow into things, the things that you thought were the goal, you've far surpassed that, and you're actually around these people that are doing all these other incredible things. That goal was seemed minuscule or seemed almost laughable at now compared to what you were thinking, and you were in a way thinking too small.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. One of the biggest things that changed for me, kind of going back to our earlier questions, I was stuck in this kind of hamster wheel of the W-2 job, having my own businesses don't going good, jobs going okay. It's starting to get really loud that I can't really see the future, but I can feel like this calling, but I can't really
Hmm.
see it yet. And I think that I had to like cut down the weeds to be
Hmm.
able to even see the forest. And I had to remove these things from life. And I think I had to ask myself the question, and to me, this was the best question I asked myself at that time was, Eddie, do you want to be where that guy is 5 years from now? Do you want to be that business owner 5 years from now? And that helped me really cut down the weeds to see the forest, because at that very moment, I realized, hey, this thing I'm working for, like, it's comfortable, but it's going to be very discomforting 5 years from now. Like, if
Yeah.
I continue what I'm doing every day 5 years later, like, I'm not going to be okay with the outcome.
Yeah.
And that for me got really, really big, because I think when the light bulb went off, as I'm like, wait a minute, if I stay where I'm at and I don't lean towards my calling, I need to figure out how to reframe failure
Hmm.
and think about that in a feedback channel. Like really figure out, okay, well, I'm not saying this is failure because failure is not final, but how do I give myself constructive criticism? How do I give myself some constructive feedback? And I think that I just kind of slowly like stepped out of the W-2 and I started to get in more risk reps. And that started to give me some bigger confidence was I started like, hey, look, I'm just going to go do something risky in my business outside this W-2. The more reps that I took that felt like risk eventually built confidence. And I also say that I started really surrounding myself around people that also stretched themselves
Hmm.
because they were kind of building an empire. I tried to ask them, you're like, what do you do that helps you be successful? And some of the things that they told me was, well, this is going to sound really crazy, Eddie. Like it's not like a physical thing you're going to do in your business, but it's a physical thing you're going to do in your own life is breath work,
Hmm.
meditation, journaling, and stillness. Like, have you shut down the noise around you with the W-2 job and growing the business? Have you like really put the blinders on and maybe put the earmuffs on and just listen to what you really want in life and just be bold in that stillness and journal through it? That is what really started changing for me. And I started thinking, hey, where do you want to be in 5 years? Are you going to be okay if you don't take the step 5 years from now?
Hmm.
Like you can't hit rewind, can't go
No,
backwards.
you don't get it back.
No.
That's the thing is if you're not going to be okay. One thing that I would add to your thing about journaling, breath work, and all those are great things too. But if you're kind of stuck or concerned about the fear, just take the time to go and do something that you've never tried before.
Amen.
Just anything, cooking class, whatever, read, some kind of physical activity or something, because that'll open up other parts of your brain and it'll probably still your mind because you'll definitely have to focus on what you're doing because you've never done it before. So you're going to go all in on it. And that's something I know that I try to do at least once a month, try something, you know, whether it's from something real goofy to anything. I did my daughter and I last couple weeks ago, we were in Orlando. We had dinner, and I was like, "Well, you want to do something else?" And there happened to be an escape room in the parking lot. So I was like, "You want to try it?" And she
Yeah.
goes, "Yeah, sure." So we
Yeah.
went in. They're like, "Do you have an appointment?" No, but we're doing this.
Yeah. I love that. I love that.
So it was very refreshing. Plus, it was a lot of fun. So it was stuff
Yeah.
like that can re-energize you and say, "I don't have anything to really be afraid of."
Well, just like this very week, I like to be a very spontaneous person.
Yeah.
My calendar looks very predictable. Like if you looked at my calendar, I'm a huge time blocking person. Like every single step, drive time, between meetings, overages, like I've got all this stuff, like very, very predictable. But also in life, I like to take risk, meaning sometimes I like to say, hey, I'm just going to step outside and we're just going to do something crazy. And I don't mean like go skydiving. What I mean is being just saying, hey, I'm gonna do some spontaneous thing that's not on my calendar. And I
Yeah.
think that those are huge. Like last week, so calendar was kind of full. It's filled up to the top, not much room for air. And wife and I both have just, really had our heads down and really, I wouldn't say going through some things, but really having some things tug on us a little bit. Like, hey, you're really just doing the same thing over and over and kind of seeking outside help for some things. And at that moment, I was driving to a different town and I heard on the radio that there was a concert that was going on. And I immediately pulled off at the next exit. I looked it up on my phone. I bought tickets and I told my wife, I said, hey, tomorrow, 7:30 p.m., we got to go to Evansville. And immediately she's like, yeah, but we have this appointment at 4 o'clock. And then also, we had maybe some dinner plans and said, hey, it's okay. Let's just combine all that. Like, I will drive you to your appointment. I'll wait in the parking lot, and then we'll leave from there.
Yeah.
But we're going to this concert tomorrow. And just that spontaneous spark, man, we felt so much better at the end of that. And then just like this coming weekend, I didn't have a whole lot on the calendar, and I found this conference that was a physicians conference. And I said,
Oh,
hey,
wow.
I'm going to go to this.
Going
I'm
to
not a
learn.
physician, but I'm going to go. I'm going to
Yeah.
learn. And I learned a ton about physicians while I was there. And I would say one of the biggest lessons that a mentor, I would also add in that, the stillness and breath work and meditation, all that stuff, is a mentor.
Hmm.
Success leaves clues. So find somebody that's already done it and follow their success story. Read their
Hmm.
book that they've published. So if somebody's already done something, they already have the clues. Like, they've already left clues, or they wrote it in their book or in a video that they did. And if you're really striving to step outside this line between the sand between comfort and your purpose, like this calling, find somebody that's already done what you want to do in life and pay them for it.
Definitely.
Because I would also just use this quote on your life. Like, post this quote today on Facebook, or leave it in the comments. Courage does not mean you're not afraid. It means you'll move anyway. I'm going to repeat that again. Courage doesn't mean you're not afraid. It means you will move anyway.
I love it.
Fear is false evidence appearing real. It's a natural response to feel afraid, and it's okay. It's okay to be fearful. It really is. And some engineering type people would say you got to have it all figured out, like every single step. Like, you got to have confidence in the business plan, but you won't have confidence until you get on the other side of that line in the sand. You just won't. So it's okay to be afraid. So, yeah, this kind of scares me a little bit, but just move anyway.
Yeah, that's definitely true. A lot of times, engineers get a bad rap because they want everything to be perfect and everything lined up and stuff. But I would add to that, done is better than perfect. So if you get it moving and you move forward, you can always amend it. Life is always ever changing, so you can change it and make amendments as well. So I mean, don't just put out something that's sloppy or whatever, but
No,
get it out there and to the best of your ability, because once other people give you feedback on it, you're probably going to make some changes and go, okay, well, I didn't think of that. And and that's what a lot of times I learned that in the tech sector. A lot of times is that they'll put stuff out as a beta version, and look, we're always a beta version. We're always working on ourselves. We're always working on it. We're always a work in progress. Just get it out there and keep putting it out there. Put in
yeah.
those reps.
Amen. Just kind of thinking on some personal stories here, going through this, and just I'm kind of replaying this conversation in my mind. There's been so many times in my life that thinking back now, I erred more towards the side of, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to go for it. What's the worst that can happen? And I think that as I got older, when I realized that's when the most growth came to me,
Hmm.
was because I'm like, hey, that was kind of fun
Hmm.
to just step out of the comfort zone and just go for it. And it was exhilarating. Like, maybe I'm an adrenaline junkie, but I do love the risk of the failure. And looking back now, like racing, I raced dirt bikes. I've raced almost anything that has wheels on it, to be honest. I've raced go-karts. I've raced dirt bikes. I've raced four-wheelers. I've raced cars. I've raced dirt track on a go-kart. I've raced dirt track in a sprint car, in a stock car. I think the only one I haven't done is NASCAR or Indy, but I'm up for it. Anybody who wants to loan a driver's seat,
Sponsor. We're looking for sponsors, guys.
looking for sponsors. Or if you already are sponsored, you just need a driver for that day, I'll happily jump in the driver's seat.
First or
Um,
last. Come on, let's go.
But I think I've gained so much smile. I've gained so much just fulfillment in stepping outside. And like the racing, man, there's nothing like it. I mean, there's just totally nothing like it. And I think that I interpolated that into, hey, what can I do this in my everyday business? How can I do this in somebody else? How can I give somebody courage, enough courage to step outside the fear? And sometimes it's like, hey, you're getting ready to go do this amazing thing, and it's going to feel really scary. But when you
Mhm.
feel scared, jump.
Mhm.
Just like the first time guy that wants to go in business for themselves. Man, my one of my regrets is I wish I would have done what I'm doing now 10 years earlier.
Yes.
I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
What
Most.
about for you? I mean, with what you're doing right now and how close you are to stepping into a new Scott kid, would you also want to start earlier, knowing
Yeah.
what you know now?
I would have, especially when I was thinking about that the younger kid that was there, and I was like, man, if I stepped into it then, because I think the kid even dropped out of college because they told the guys that he's partnered with told him, hey, you don't need to really go to college to learn this. You really need to just learn this by doing it because there's so many things in here that aren't going to really help you. But one thing that I know that always helps me is just looking back because I've always been doing fitness my whole life, some type of working. I used to do powerlifting, bodybuilding, stuff like that. Was just staying consistent, and then like looking back, it's helped me a lot in other things because like look how much healthier I am and how much progress I made because I used to bulk up quite a bit, weigh a lot, and be able to I'd pyramid it up to where I could lift a huge amount of weight. And I always think back to that, like, well, I did that by just keep doing, and it was scary. Like, well, I can't believe I'm actually lifting that or whatever. It's like, and things like that. And one time, I on a bet, I actually lifted the back of a Nissan Sentra. I had a few drinks, but I did win the bet because I couldn't lose because I was flat broke.
Yeah,
Actually,
yeah. There was no see, you forced yourself into making sure it was going to happen because you couldn't afford it. Like it was
yeah,
the end of the day, I had to do
yeah, I made myself and everyone around me very uncomfortable, but
it.
it was fun. It was fun, but
Well,
I always look back at that and say, well, I did that, and that was one of the first things that I did for a long time that I accomplished quite a bit. I didn't do anything professional or anything that with it, but for me personally, it was a great mechanism to help me gain that confidence.
yeah, for me, I power lifted, done local meetups. Definitely, I need to find where they're at, but I do have, awards that I won from powerlifting, first place and next generation powerlifter in two areas. And I said this to somebody the other day that needed some courage to jump off the fence. And I had to say it to him a couple times because I don't think it's kind of hard to understand, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. Um, I never won with the same weight when I signed up for the competition that I finished with.
Mm,
That weight was always bigger. So when I would sign up for a competition months before, I knew it took a bench press of 350 pounds to win.
mm,
My max at that time was 330. And I thought, I'm not signing up to becoming in second, but
mm,
I'm signing up for something that I'm not even prepared to do yet,
mm,
but I'm going to sign up. I'm going to either get in a lesser weight class and really kill it, or I'm going to stay in the weight class I'm in the day and I'm going to work my butt off and see what I'm made of on the day of judgment.
yeah,
And that right there was what really made me like the steps in progress were like this.
yeah,
Every step was a step up because I knew the next competition. I wasn't going to sign up for a competition where the guys my weight class were doing 350. I was going
yeah,
to sign up for the weight class where the guys are doing 375.
yeah.
And say, hey, a couple months from now, like it's either come in second or do this.
Yeah. Well, That's a prime example of putting yourself around people that are doing more, because I know just the energy from those contests and stuff, or any kind of competition, even though you've never done that before, the buzz and the energy around it, everyone's lifting heavy. So you start stepping up, and it just gets you going to where you get to the next level automatically, really, just because you're around the people and you see them doing it. So, like, well, I can do that. Like, I can do that too, and it just kind of gets you in that mindset of like, yeah, this is what we're doing. There's no
Yeah.
backing out now.
Well, very personal story. So I used to work out with some really good power lifters and guys that actually did compete,
Oh, wow.
in some bigger events. And one of them was kind of my coach. Well, kind of funny how if he ever listens to this episode, he's going to know exactly. The first time I met him in my local gym, he was sitting on a bench. He was just kind of, fully clothed. He didn't have tight clothing on, just bigger shirt and everything. And I don't know why I asked this question, but I said, "Hey, Chris, how much did you lift back in your day?" And he spun around and he goes, "I still lift." "What do you mean back in my day?" Like he was retired. That was a little bit offensive looking back. But he said, "Well, let's work out sometime, and tell me about the things that you're doing." And we got to be really good friends. Fast forward probably 5, 6 years in the now, 2 years ago, I come back from being in Texas for a little bit on an investment opportunity to help, run and get things in the right order. And he said, "Hey, Eddie, are you going to compete in the Schweitzer Fest bench press competition?" I said, "Man, I've maintained, but I haven't lifted heavy in probably 2 years, man." And he
Yeah.
goes, "Well, for the fun of it, I haven't lifted either for a couple of years. Why don't we jump in this thing?"
Okay.
And he said, "My son wants to lift too. So you guys are in two different weight classes. So he's in the junior. It'd be fun to see you compete again." And I said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah." So we had about a month and a half to train. I hadn't had 300 pounds in my hands for quite a while on a bench, and it was just a bench press competition. And we started training, and I started coming right back around, man. I was feeling good. And he gave me about a week out, he gave me my meal plan, sleep plan. Like he gave me the whole plan. Like we were really going after this thing. Like it was
Okay.
had a big magnitude of winnings or
Yeah.
something. And I'm following that down. And then I got down to the bottom and he gave me my weight. And he said, "We're going to open at 275. And then, no, we're going to open at 285. Then we're going to do 295. And then we're going to do 305. And I said, "We need to put the 305 at the start." And he said, "Ah, you're benching 300 plus now, but, on that day, like, we've only been training for a month and a half." And I said, "Okay, all right." So we get there. And he was okay with moving it to the 295 on the first bench because you had three benches.
Yeah.
You have to complete that weight to move up. So I said, "We're going to do 295, 305, and then I'll do 315, 6 plates." And he said, "Okay, yeah, that sounds good." So warming up, like it was lightweight. I mean, lightweight, felt really good. And I said, "All right." So a couple gentlemen come in that I didn't see them bench before, but we're all standing around. They're explaining the rules, how this all gets judged, what we can and can't do, all this stuff. And the guys in my weight class, I see there's more people in that weight class than I thought there would be. And then instantly we start talking about what's your first weight.
Yeah.
So I was the smallest guy at that weight. Everybody else is doing 305 first or 300. And Chris is like, "Stick to the plan." And I said, "We're going to do 305 first." And Chris is like, so anyway, to fast forward, we get to the last lift. I'm keeping up with them just fine. Even though I chose my weight, I'm feeling great. There's an ending to this story that everybody's going to like to hear. And then there's also a negative effect to the story too. So I do my second lift. I kill it. I'm at like 315 on my second lift. So 6 plates. I finish, and then you have to tell the person judging the next weight, what your next weight's going to
Okay.
be. So the guy that just lifted before me, that was actually right ahead of me, he put 5 more pounds on me. So he was at 320. I already knew he was 5 pounds ahead, and he'd probably take a 10-pound jump. So he'd be at 330.
Okay.
And I thought, man, I know he's going to take a 10-pound jump. He's going to do 330. So I get up, I walk back over to Chris. He goes, man, you look really solid on that. It didn't look heavy. What's your next lift going to be? And I said,
335.
he's going to put up 330. I know he is. He goes, Eddie, you haven't had 330 in your hands for 2+ years, buddy. Like, I'm not saying you can't do it. And I said, the energy's here. And that, what you just talked about, energy, the energy was in the room. Like, my family was there. My coach was there. My daughter's watching. I said, I'm going to do 340.
Ooh.
He goes, ooh, dude. He said, 340, man. That's a big jump, huge jump. Um, so he walks up and he says, I'm going to do 330. He hears my lift and he said, I'm going to do 335 because he thought, hey, if I can get my lift and he don't get his, anybody in between us can come in there. He lifts, he puts up 335. And I said, and my coach is going, Eddie, just do 335 and just match him. Like 340 that's another 5 pounds. It's going to be a lot. Well, luckily the people that knew me knew when I get stuck,
Yeah.
don't put your hands on it.
Yeah.
They've been around me. They've seen me bench before. They've seen me in competitions before. We put 340 on the bar and they don't lift off. I didn't want to lift off. Lifted off. It's feeling heavy already. I come down, touch it off the chest, bring it off my chest, and I'm starting to slow down. And I guess it sat there for a minute and I was starting to come back down. And I seen their fingers come up to grab it and I pushed. And I mean, I pushed like everybody's watching, put it in the sky, won the competition, got up. About a week or two later, I could feel the popping. Like I felt a
Oh.
tear. I tore my tricep and an inner muscle down in here that still to this day hurts. So what I'm saying is never put pride and ego
Mm.
into things you've never done before
Yep.
because it will damage and make you hurt later. So
Yep.
the whole root of this story is just for the sake of winning on a trophy, it's not worth sometimes damaging your own body because that was
Hmm.
all pride and ego. And
Yeah.
that would be one thing I would want to remove from that exact story was because at the end of it, it was all testosterone. It was all
Yeah.
for the sake of winning, putting up the number, beating this guy. It wasn't earn the respect. It was more, dude, I'm going to get you next year.
Yeah.
Everybody enjoyed it. It was definitely an act of great magnitude in the public eye, but at the same time, like I live with that now today. And I could have done 335 and just matched the kid, and we both would have been winners. And I probably wouldn't have torn anything. So what I'm
Yeah.
saying is this week, notice one area of your life that you're choosing to be comfortable in, and it's this calling you have. See if there's a way that you can take a small step towards a brave future and take that step towards change. I'm not saying go rip your trap. What I'm saying is make that jump. Step towards the future and just see what you can truly do in this life and see what happens because people still talk about that. Like I came
Hmm.
out of the gym and I guess I was really pumped up. And I have nowhere near what the best Eddie Austin looked like by no means. And I passed a kid that I've known for 10, 12 years and we're walking down the Schweitzer Fest, and I'm in my cutoff shirt. Still, it's cooler outside, but I'm needing to cool off a little bit. And I'm walking down through there, and he goes, "Dude, I didn't know you were such a beast. When did you get ripped?" And I said, "I'm not even ripped. I just did a bench press. It was just blood in the muscles." But what
Yeah.
I mean is When you step out your comfort zone, there's people there that look up to you, whether they say they do or not. So just take this week, notice one area in your life, and choose to go outside your comfort zone. Take a small step into bravery.
Yeah,
Just don't hurt yourself.
yeah. Just don't hurt yourself. That is a great story. You know, because I remember when I was really into powerlifting. I don't remember the gym. Might have been a powerhouse gym. I don't know if they're around anymore, but they did stuff like that all the time. They were always pushing each other, and there were certain parts of the gym they left the bars and the leg press machines all loaded up. If you couldn't lift that, you couldn't go to that part of the gym. You know, it always on the leg press machine. It always had 10 plates, five on each side. And if you couldn't at least lift that, you couldn't even get started over there. You had
I'm
315
gonna
on the bench. It was, I mean, it was a very egocentric area of the gym, and they would run you out of there and stuff like that. So of course, I made a point to get into that side of the gym because I was like, well, if I'm going to lift, I want to be with the big boys. You know, I want to, it's always something that no matter what I'm doing, I want to be around the best. I want to, so I can be my best. You know, like we were running races. I want to run against the fastest ones. I want to, on playing basketball or soccer, I didn't want to play on the scrub field. Didn't want to be the best, worst player there. I wanted to at least be able to ride the bench on the best court. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. That triggers a memory, man. Like I think I was probably 25, 26. Everybody skipped leg day, but there was a few of us crazy powerlifters. We never
Yeah,
skipped leg day.
never.
And there was a hack squat machine that it only had so many places to put your plates.
Yeah,
So that
yeah,
means that somebody's sitting on top of the hack squat machine and you're doing the 10 plates and you're doing them, and they're sitting on top of the machine as weight more.
yeah.
Like you didn't get more crazy of doing
No,
stuff like that. And
I remember those days.
hey,
Yeah,
jump on top of this machine. There ain't enough weight,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
just a bunch of boneheads.
Right around then, that was the time when I lifted the back of the car, just
Yeah.
because like, I never skipped leg day because that was one of my high points. It was always like legs were always really strong, and when I played sports, I always thing that helped me is I always had that quick first step. You know, it's the same thing. You can equate this to doing anything. If you take that first jump, a lot of times you get ahead of a lot of people pretty quickly. That quick acceleration because it helps you a lot. And don't ever skip leg day.
No. Hey, your legs are what's carrying this frame. So if you're out there with little toothpicks underneath of you, don't skip leg day.
Yeah, that's that there was a health advisor, a health coach. She told me, said, well, if you do just even do some unweighted squats, that's kind of the pump that gets your blood moving. Like if you do 5 or 10 squats in the morning, you get your blood moving really fast. You know, so
For
it's a
sure.
good thing to do.
Man, this has been great. Let's do a quick lightning round to close us out. We talked about this in some previous episodes. Let's do a lightning round. Go ahead, come up with some quick questions, fire them at me, and I'll do the best I can.
Okay. What is your favorite activity other than real estate or, favorite fun activity?
Oh, man, shooting guns. Love. I'm a gun enthusiast. I love long range shooting, pistol shooting. I really, really like shooting sports.
Nice. Favorite Olympic sport?
Favorite Olympic sport. I don't even know if this is a sport, but it's close to the heart. I should have been a professional bowler. I had the opportunity. I didn't do it. So I would say if the Olympics is there's bowling. I don't know if they are or not. I'm not a big on sports fan, but I would say other than that, I got it. No, I got it. My favorite, and there's a movie about this. My favorite Olympic sport is bobsledding.
Bobsled. Yeah,
That
that's a
is
really
such a
good one.
cool and the movie Cool Runnings. If you've never watched that movie,
Great
that is
movie.
such a good, heartfelt movie. So, favorite Olympic sport, final answer, bobsledding.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good one. Favorite book?
Favorite book, definitely Napoleon Hill. I would say Outwitting the Devil.
Wow, that's a good one. That's a really good one. Well, there you have it. There's three in-depth insights to Eddie Austin right there.
Man, it's been an amazing episode. I can't wait to do this is episode number 21. I can't wait to do 22. This has just been a fun journey. I mean, it really has. It's just been so good. And I know for a fact that there's areas in my life that have improved just from surrounding myself around you. And I cannot say thank you enough for this opportunity to be my co-host here on this podcast. I know for a fact that the listeners have already started to reach out to me and say, "Hey, I love that last episode." So that is what this is all about. It's not about the money. It's not about anything else. It's about just having fun, like enjoying this journey. And I've enjoyed this episode 20 now. We've done 20 episodes together. This has been a fun journey.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that, and I really thank you for being on this journey together because it's just I get a lot out of it, and a lot of times throughout my week I get excited about it that we're doing this, and then I reflect on it a lot of times over the weekends and stuff like that, and it forces me to step out of that comfort zone and stuff like that, and like,
Yes.
well, you know what, I need to man up, just kind of move forward into this, and it's created so many opportunities, and there's so many other opportunities that have yet to be created just out of these thoughts and stuff like that. And I'm really glad that hopefully, if it even helps one person, I know we've done good work, and that's what's important to me. Is because I know I've said this before, but the younger me, had he listened, needs to hear all these things because that way you could jump ahead if you just don't make those decisions, or do make those decisions that are really conscious and unconscious that we really need to focus on.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
thank you.
I would
Yeah, thank you.
thank you all for listening, and thank you, Scott, for doing this. But most importantly, please like and subscribe, smash that share button, and share this with somebody else that needs to hear it. That is an extraordinary act that you can take a step on today. And I'm asking you to do that. Just share this with somebody else that needs to hear it. And Scott, what do you always say to finish this out?
As I always say, I'm Scott K with my good friend and co-host Eddie Austin. Be clear, be grateful, and listen.
Until next time.
Thank you, guys.